This is the easier-to-read version of 1984 by George Orwell, retold and narrated by Sarah Simpson. Part 1, Chapter 3. Winston was asleep in his bed. He was having a dream about his mother. He was 10 years old when she disappeared. She had been tall and thin, with beautiful blonde hair. His father had also been tall and thin. He had glasses and a pair of worn-out shoes. He couldn't remember what had happened to his father. Winston guessed that both of his parents had been taken away in one of the first government roundups to get rid of people who didn't like Big Brother. In the dream, he was looking down at his mother from high above. She was in some sort of hole or pit, and she was holding Winston's baby sister. He barely remembered his baby sister. His mother's face looked sad and afraid as he drifted higher and higher above her. Winston wasn't exactly sure how, but he knew that his mother and sister had died in order to save him. At least, he thought they were dead. There was no way to be 100% sure. Winston's mother had died 30 years ago, and things were very different in the world then. When she died, it was very, very sad. It was a tragedy. No child would feel that way about their mother dying now. His neighbor Mrs. Parsons' children were unable to love anyone, even their own mother. They wouldn't care if she died. Winston thought this was horrible. Winston had loved his mother, and his mother had loved him. That was why her death was sad. Winston's dream changed now. Now he was standing in a green field on a summer afternoon. The light was soft and warm. There was a little path he could walk along, and a stream moved slowly and peacefully. Winston dreamed about this wonderful place often, and he thought about it when he was awake as well. He called it the Golden Country. The girl with the dark hair and freckles, the one from work who he desired and hated at the same time, walked toward him across the field. She stared into his eyes and ripped off all her clothes. Her body was smooth and white, but he didn't feel sexual desire. He felt admiration for her, for being so confident, for looking like she didn't care what Big Brother would say or do if he saw her. Her freedom was wonderful to watch. She was like a human poem. He whispered the word Shakespeare. The sound of the 7:15 morning alarm blared from the telescreen and woke him up. Everyone who worked an office job got up at the same time in Oceania. He was naked and the room was cold. He got out of bed and hurried to put on his workout shorts and shirt. Workers like Winston couldn't afford pajamas. They only got 3,000 clothing coupons a year, and pajamas cost 600. The required physical jerks, the morning workout, were coming up. Winston had a horrible coughing fit, just like every other morning. He coughed so hard it made the varicose vein on his ankles start to hurt. The voice on the telescreen led him through a series of stretches and exercises, and he tried to look happy about it in case the camera was watching him. As he exercised, he tried to remember his childhood. It was hard to know for sure which memories were real and which memories were made up. He knew a lot of things were different from when he was a little boy, but things changed all the time in Oceania. It was hard to keep it straight. He knew for sure that there had not been wars all the time when he was a little boy. There had been peace, at least for a while. He remembered when the atom bomb dropped on his town. He remembered how his father grabbed his hand and pulled him into the subway station away from the danger. He remembered his mother walking behind them. The subway station was full of people, all of them scared and upset. An old man was talking to an old woman. He was drunk. Winston could smell the strong scent of gin coming from his body. The man was crying and telling the woman that the government shouldn't have trusted them. Winston was too young to know who the man was talking about. It was some country who had been Oceania's ally and now was its enemy. There were always wars now. Right now, Oceania was at war with Eurasia. Oceania was allied with East Asia. That hadn't always been the case. There had been times when Eurasia and Oceania had been allies against East Asia. There had been times when East Asia and Eurasia were both against Oceania. However, the government always claimed that whatever alliance was happening right now was the truth. People were bad at paying attention, or they just didn't care, because they never questioned these lies. Winston remembered the truth, but he knew better than to say so. As he continued to do the exercises with the woman on the telescreen, Winston thought about how scary and confusing Big Brother's doublethink was. Lies were turned into truths. Defeats were turned into victories. Crazy ideas won out over logical ones. It was like being hypnotized. This was the problem with having no written records of history, he thought. Big Brother could change the story, and nobody could prove him wrong. Big Brother had not always been in charge, no matter what the party said. When Winston was younger, there had been a different leader and a different government. However, it was hard to prove that this was a lie, since all the history books said Big Brother had been in charge for many decades. The history books also said that Big Brother invented the airplane, which even the stupidest person could tell was a lie. "Smith," the woman on the telescreen shouted at Winston, "Number 6079, try harder. Bend over and touch your toes. Don't bend your knees." Winston's back and legs hurt horribly, but he grudgingly made his legs a little straighter. He hated group exercise. It was so stupid. "Smith, you're just being lazy," the telescreen woman went on. "I've had 4 children, and I can still touch my toes. Even if you don't get to fight in the army for Big Brother, you can at least stay in decent shape so you can serve him here at home." Using all his anger, Winston pushed his arms down and barely managed to touch his toes.